You got two big myths, the sugar myth and the protein myth, and they're both just full of crap. You can pull you out of a wheelchair. If you got MS, Lou Gehrig's, you have a spinal injury, they'll pull you right out of there. If you got liver tumors, whatever, we clean. But you have to understand the simplicity of how the body works. And that's what's going on right now. Allopathy has literally become a killing machine. If you're a blue-eyed person, you can have brown eyes from chronic lymphatic stagnation.
When you look at the blue zones, they eat a lot of things like beans and sweet potatoes and a lot of cooked food. Why don't you think these theories of cooked food actually being beneficial valid?
I've had people with bags of supplements on my desk going, tell me which one, because none of these work. I said, of course they don't. I did LSD and window pane, mushrooms way back in my early 20s. But in reality, I learned that I can have that awareness without taking anything because it's me that I'm talking about in the first place. What am I trying to do with giving myself a buzz? And I am the buzz. You have to be careful what you believe in because that becomes your experience.
Hi, and welcome to this new episode of the Lightleaders. Today is a truly exceptional episode because we have Dr. Morse on the show. So if you don't know Dr. Morse, you have 50 years of practice now, and your groundbreaking work on tissue regeneration and unparalleled tissue-specific formulas have helped tens of thousands overcome virtually any condition by understanding the true cause of what mainstream medicine labels as diseases. You've helped people with cancer, Crohn's disease, IBS, you name it. Actually, you can go on morses.tv anytime and search for conditions like an encyclopedia of healing. I personally think you're one of the greatest healers of our time. You've also been censored a lot for, I believe, speaking the truth. I think you're not on YouTube anymore at all, but fortunately you got morses.tv. The topics we'll have today is we'll talk about food, of course, and diet and the optimal diet, how you have a radically different approach to the medical system, which is probably why you got banned a lot. But we'll also get into consciousness, which I know is a topic that you love, and how consciousness affects health. Because in the health industry, a lot of people get stuck only in the physical, but I do believe that the consciousness affects the health a lot. So I love having a holistic view. And then we'll also touch upon the legacy that you've been living after 50 years of practice, and I think around 700 Q&A videos of more than an hour. Dr. Morse, thank you so much for joining. And my first question to you is, what are you grateful for today?
Awareness, consciousness, at a certain point in spirituality, and I'm sure your listeners, there's a whole bunch of you, they're ready to stop that journey. That's my gig, is waking up from creation, waking up from duality, and realizing your higher self is nothing more than you, and that you, at a certain level, become it. And so it's just that journey of awakening, breaking the chain of thought, getting out of the mind and living from a computer and living from consciousness. Then you realize, then you can play in your human body, your astral body, your mental bodies. You can have fun if you want, if you're aware and learn how to use those bodies without collecting yourself some lightly called karma. So that's really my gig. I used to teach out-of-body travels I've been teaching out-of-body travels for 55 years, teaching people how you leave the human body. Basically, how do you remove your awareness from your embodiments and pull it to who you really are? How do you become aware of your awareness?
Thank you so much for sharing your gratitude about that conscious path also. And as mentioned, we'll touch upon it. I'd love to start with more on just the diet and how simple the diet you share is and how opposed it is to the mainstream. So I'd love to ask you, starting with that physical base, what's the right diet for humans?
I started out as a farm boy. We had farms and a bunch of other stuff. And so we were always working, but we were always drinking milk. Of course, slaughtered animals and have meat and all that sort of thing. But we had a lot of milk, dairy products, and that, of course, really clogged me up in all kinds of ways. And so later on, when I was probably about just after I got out of the military, I was introduced to the natural hygienic movement. And it just all made sense, what animal cooks their food before they eat it, that sort of thing. So they were very much into raw fruits, berries, melons, and salads and that sort of thing. More, I would say, vegetables than fruits. But within that movement, you had Dr. Carrington, you had several individuals that were fruitarian thinkers. And that lit me right up because when you look at the Homo sapien species, and then you go back, says we've got a book coming out, I've got a new book coming out to demonstrate the fact that the Homo sapien is a frugivore species. Sorry, we're not omnivores, we're not herbivores, and certainly not carnivores. So we've got a lot of evidence. I went back 20 million years looking at the cracks in the teeth with Dr. Walker's studies and just showing you that even the hominids before the Homo erectus, which is just before the Homo sapien, they basically all fruitarians. The Homo erectus, just before the human, had some omnivorish tendencies, but I've always thought that's location, location, location. Like the mountain gorillas. They're up eating tender leaves and things like that. That's not their diet. Gorillas are frugivores. And I was at Disney World asking the gorilla trainer why he's giving these gorillas vegetables when they're frugivores. He said, oh, fruit have too much sugar. And that's the unconsciousness, like the protein myth that's out there. You got two big myths, the sugar myth and the protein myth, and they're both just full of crap. Can hurt you.
It's so interesting because where I live in Bali, I actually know a lot of people who have tried raw vegan, fruitarian, especially because I think it makes just so much sense. It's so plain and simple,
Yeah.
right? You look into nature and you see those big apes, and we have the same teeth and the same GI tract. We should eat the same. Fruits are also intuitively very appetizing. So it's like on the mind level, all these things come together. But in the communities I'm part of, I know a lot of people who thought that, aligned with that, and for them, their experience is that it didn't work. Sometimes they say, oh, I was vegan for 8 years and I had a piece of meat and I felt like my brain came back to life, or things like this. I've seen a lot of young men, especially, do that in Ubud and then change. Why do you think some people don't succeed on this type of diet?
Well, I think it has a lot to do, and I've said this before, I don't think the human can become a fruitarian back for a while. He has or she has got so far off in or lost in the world of duality, in world of creation. Look at the attitudes, look at the battles. I don't like you, I want to kill you. I mean, we're so lost in the negative energies right now. So man has been eating off point for a lot of centuries and a lot of generations. And so Dr. Walker's work went back, like I said, 12, 15, and 20 million years. And one of the things that I felt very interesting about their viewpoint was looking at modern man and making the comment that man, his organs and glands have not adapted to an omnivorish diet. And boy, is that ever true. You want to make that argument, take a look at the average person is so sick, even the young people. Their genetics are getting them, their kidneys are down, their lymphatic systems are just unreal. Tumors in babies, all of this sort of thing. So man is a victim of his thinking of diet. And the proof of that is in clinical work, we can turn you totally around. Like you said, we can pull you out of a wheelchair. If you got MS, Lou Gehrig's, you have a spinal injury, They'll pull you right out of there if you got liver tumors, whatever, we clean. But you have to understand the simplicity of how the body works, the simplicity of the laws of nature, and a few things like that, and you're off and running. The medical world is lost in the mental side of life. Sometimes when you start off with wrong theories, and those theories are perpetrated by the wealthy, then you end up becoming a killing machine. And that's what's going on right now. Allopathy has literally become a killing machine. And so you have to back off from that and take a look at that and realize how simple health is and how simple it is to understand how humans have got where they're at. And then how do you fix where the human state of health is at, which is not good. It's sliding down. I tell you, genetically, kids are born without faces now. I mean, it is a sick world. I mean, look at the news and what you see, the 20-year-olds, the 30-year-olds, one 23-year-old out making funeral arrangements for herself. That's ridiculous. Can fix her. But that allopathy doesn't get that. That's lost in its own narcissism. And the training was all wrong. And so if you said it earlier when we were talking, it's common sense, awareness, that sort of thing is lacking in that modality. The naturopathic modality, we look at the cause of things. We don't treat symptoms. If you treat a symptom, you're never going to find your remedy. You got to understand why you suffer. Why is that pain there? What's causing that tumor there in your body? Why do you have whatever you have, whatever you're diagnosed with, cancer, whatever the medical doctors used as a diagnosis? But what does that mean in reality? What does cancer mean? What's going on in your body when someone diagnoses you with cancer? All of these things, you learn that, and it'll set you free. It'll literally set you free and empower you to go, you know what, I can fix myself. There's times for ERs. I worked years in emergency rooms. There's times for surgeries. That's it. When you're working with the theory of disease, that's the killing machine. And the theory of disease is 17th century crap. They're still working on that. And then with the Rockefeller, I think you know about the Rockefeller people who perpetrated that concept of disease and the germ, and the pill in the pharmaceutical company, Standard Oil, all of that history brings you to where we are now. The treatment of an illusionary concept with toxic pharmaceuticals that have high fatal events to them. So people are dying all over the place. Just from normal pharmaceuticals, not to mention the B words.
Yeah, and that's something I think that has become quite obvious when people have taken the time to go more into that rabbit hole and actually do some research. And it's almost like, in the more conspiracy theory world, there can be all these people conspiring, but ultimately what I believe is more like a financial thing, where when you heal eating fruits, you're basically against a whole money machine. And I think that's why people like you get banned or censored, is because you're you're ruining the market, basically.
I kind of wanted to finish a little bit when we were talking about why some people can't do it. Several levels of that. First of all, their awareness. People block their own healing and their own limited awareness. And so the other side of this is man has been so long on an omnivorish diet, but the worst end of it. I mean, even omnivores don't eat the level of protein that humans do. Humans almost eat the level of proteins carnivores do, but that's all acidic diets. That's why man's breaking down tissue in his body. We're not designed, you said it earlier, we're not designed like that at all. We're not designed like a carnivore whatsoever. And our new book coming out is going to lay all that out, show you the different mother's milks, show you the different everything, the A and P of the whole nine, of the whole basic four vertebrae, just to give you an idea. However, there are some bodies that are so toxic, so obstructed, they don't understand. Just going on fruit's going to cure all that. That's why I'm into herbal medicine. I'm into the botanical magic, because using botanicals on people like that will be helpful. But if someone claims that meat is empowering and will help them be healthy, they're gravely mistaken. They might feel the stimulation from that coming out of a detox. But when you go on a raw food diet, it is a hydrating diet. And what we call hydrating is detoxification. Because as soon as your body starts hydrating itself, you start seeing this agglomulation, this cationic environment become anionic. And then you start to see everything, tumors start opening up, your kidneys start filtering, all of this starts to happen. And then all the pain, swelling, all this stuff comes out because your acidic wastes are now leaving the body instead of staying at home. So some people struggle with that. They struggle with self-discipline, and they struggle. There's all kinds of reasons for that. Emotional reasons they can't handle, because the fruit is the highest vibrational conscious food on the planet. It's like the tree said, here, I got something for you, and it's really good. And so it's just the power of that tree to make that for you. Energetically, the fruit rates as high as the berry magnetically or higher. So we're looking at the highest energetic food on the planet. Well, enter Yale. Now, you've seen all our success with Lou Gehrig's and MS and wheelchairs. Well, here comes Yale University saying, you know what? The brain converts glucose to fructose, right? We were talking about that. Well, wake up. That means if you're not eating fruit, your body has to convert an inferior simple sugar, glucose, into fructose. It is a proof positive that your neurons require fructose. This is why your primates and your Homo sapiens are the most intelligent, the most self-aware, and have that level of need to have electrical energy. You don't see that in the other species. They build things, but the primate and the human, look what they can build and what they can do. And the self-awareness drives them to the spirituality, where most of the consciousness of the plants and the animals are still in that not self yet, still in that basic consciousness. So pretty cool. But people struggle with that. I get it. I use botanicals with my fruit diets, but outside of that, I couldn't do it. And the reason I couldn't do it isn't anything other than so much energy. I couldn't stay in my body. I couldn't. My body was laying there, but I was out constantly. I was being trained by different beings, but I was still out all the time, and I had so much energy. I couldn't handle it. I had to start going to vegetables to lower my energy, to ground myself. Because if you don't ground yourself, you become you don't work well with other beings.
Yeah, thank you. I love what you shared with the fruit from the tree. My friend Josh X even says, like, you can see in the word fruits, like, for you to eat. It's like the invitation. And so my understanding is that a lot of people change either because they're detoxifying too hard and it's complicated, or because they're actually too high in a way and they feel ungrounded. Is that what you think?
Well, yeah. When you're talking about hooking yourself up to higher levels of energy, you can translate that into higher levels of awareness, of course, but you have to be able to handle it. Not I'm a traveler, so not every, I'll use the word soul, not every soul or state of consciousness down here has been here very long. Some just got here to experience at this physical level. You're not going to wake them up, and don't even try. I've tried. You're not going to do it. They're here to have fun. They're here to wreak havoc. They're here to do whatever. I mean, I've had souls here that became hookers, just got here and said, I want to be a hooker. I'm going, what? I mean, just all kinds of things you can't imagine. You can't change those. You have to only look at the self. Where are you in this journey of activity? Because creation is just your activity. It's just what you're doing. It's not who you are. You're not the physical body. You have to change your perspective. If you can change your perspective from the little self and the little physical body to the consciousness looking down from the heavens, it's a better perspective.
Thank you. And these are really important conversation. I believe that definitely worth sharing and spreading in the general awareness. So I have a word also for our viewers currently, our listeners. If you feel like this is an important conversation, it really helps if you like this video and if you share with other people.
It is very important because it's your journey. So the bottom line, I was so having fun traveling to different worlds and different lands, different dimensions and all this, and training students and all this. And then this voice came to me as I was traveling. I don't know where I was going. And this voice came through me that said, "Who's the traveler, my friend?" And it woke me right up. I go, yeah, I've been about traveling and creation, but I haven't been about what I'm seeking, the self. Who am the heck am I? Who is the traveler traveling? Who is the one that's using this physical embodiment? Who's the one using your emotional embodiment? Is it you? And who's the one using your mind? Is it you or someone else? I mean, you just really got to get to who you really are. And the only way you can do that is you have to drop mind. You have to drop thought. Anything that's a preconceived idea, anything that's a computer, that's the mind. That's the causal, past and future. No, everything is right now. Time is just a succession of nows.
Thank you, Dr. Morse. And I love that you bring the consciousness into it. Actually, on that topic, I find that sometimes people in the raw vegan movement are a little bit ignorant of that and are very dogmatic about what's right for you, and sometimes ignore the impact and the power of consciousness on our food. So where do you find the right balance between understanding that we consciousness and those infinite possibilities, and respecting the physical and the matter and how it's designed and aligning with that?
God, well, that's a good question, because anything in creation is, I hate to use the word a dime a dozen. Experiences are a dime a dozen. You can have whatever you want. There's really nothing sacred about the experiences. To be honest with you, they come and they go. You can be in it. Listen, the human body, you've had a lot of bodies before, and that's you. And so you've been embodied a lot. And it's learning, what have I been doing? If you want to look back on the Akashic records and see your journeys, that's available, of course. But it's all going to bring you away from all the externals. Why do we go in? Why do we take a minute and go within ourselves anyway? We go in to get out, right? You go in to get out. You remove your attention. What is meditation? What's contemplation? You're removing your attention off of supposedly creation. Now, if you want to just travel, you move your attention to somewhere else. Move it to the ceiling, move it to the beach, move it to the woods. Learn how to move yourself out of your body. But that's not who you are. So it's a journey of aloneness. It's a journey of deep aloneness. And when you start getting into the higher levels, it starts peeling you away like an onion. Your body starts dropping away from you. And then you start seeing more and more who you really are. And in the higher levels of the mind, which is a lot by Holmes, wrote a lot about the universal mind. But the universal mind is that little thin sheath that all minds come from. But at that point, you see that everything, literally everything, comes from the same source. You're not quite in all of it yet, but you start to see everything. That's the pure mind. Everything is coming from the same source. It's just individualized and expressing itself in that individuality in that particular segment of activity, or if you want to use the word time. But it isn't, all of this just comes back to, it's just it. I've said this on a video the other day. Consciousness can't experience itself. It can't experience itself because it's totally in the now and it's infinite. So this is where you are. This is who you are. And you've got to be able to handle getting into these high levels again. It's amazing what, it's almost like to achieve a raw food or a high fruit diet, at least 70% of your diet, you're going to see a lot going on. Your cells in your body are going to lift their awareness up. You're going to see cells come out of their genetic slumber and into the original blueprint again. You're going to see things that were genetic go away. It's just amazing to see how the body realigns itself in these higher levels of energy. And so when you look at and you ask the question, why do we eat in the first place? Right? You have to look at that. We eat for what? About 75 trillion cells. We're not eating for your pleasure. You can, and you should, but fruit is already pleasurable. And if you pick it ripe off a tree, a berry ripe off a vine, where do you get better taste than that? Where do you get a better taste than a ripe peach right off a tree? A ripe pineapple. How about those golden pineapples from Hawaii? A ripe one, right? I mean, you eat them and you're in nirvana. But that's the way it's supposed to be. But we've gotten into cooking and processing and killing our animals and eating them. And it's just, it's a mess. The Homo sapien got themselves in a mess. So it's about your group, everybody you sit at the light bearers coming down in this. When I came to this lower world, there was a lot of beings that came with me. So you're going to see light bearers popping everywhere, hopefully, to see what's going to happen here. I used to think I knew, but it's pretty crazy.
I love that, and that you share so much about our awareness, our consciousness, and at the same time, when you shared, it made me think of the work of, let's say, someone like Joe Dispenza that does a lot of healing through the simple power of consciousness. But when I think of you, I definitely think of someone who has that awareness of consciousness, but also as a healer that's been working mainly through the physical, right? Like proper diet and the herbs. So I guess that's an important element.
Well, most people in the spiritual worlds have heard of the chakras, and most of them are starting to learn that the chakras are linked to your endocrinology. And so, when you start hydrating and you start bringing in higher energy and alkaline electrons, you start seeing all this acid and all this mucus and all these proteins start leaving the body. So it's just I don't know where I was going to go with that, but it just brings a higher order to everything. Your body, my cells in my body used to cramp when I'd be out of body and come back. My cells couldn't handle the energy I was putting through my body. And so it took a while for my cells, but then I realized I had to balance my diet out a little bit. I had to add a salad, even though we don't digest salads well, we're not herbivores, but it brought energetic balance. And I think that's really important for some of your listeners that get way out there, because there's some that are doing dry fasting, extensive times of dry fasting. I don't recommend that. Water fasting, that's cool, whatever you want to do with that. I've had people go 3 and 4 years on fruit, 3 and 4 years on vegetable juices and stuff. And I've been able to see the difference and the power of what it does within the human body. But part of understanding health is understanding your lymphatic system, how we teach it. But part of that lymphatic system is your adrenal glands sitting on top of your kidneys. That's your chakra to your astral body. So as you're cleaning your physical body, here comes the astral clean. So you've got emotions coming out like crazy. Because you've got anxieties coming out of the adrenals, depression out of the parathyroids. So as your body starts kicking all these acids out of itself, those things that have been lowering the function of cells start picking up their functionability. Man, everything starts wanting to leave the room. And that includes emotions that you have stored. Cells store emotions. Everything, you have to realize that everything exists in this physical world has all these bodies with them, and that includes the very grass that you walk on. Everything. Nothing can be at this level without first coming down through the God worlds. It's impossible to do that. So everything has memory. When you eat a fruit, it has all the bodies with it, and it's designed to go into yours and enhance all these beings called cells in your body. I mean, when you start to get into the spiritual side of this, get away from the mundane forms of it, the power and the light and the energy is unreal.
And so it's almost like your consciousness is going to affect the physical, but also what you eat, and the physical in turn is going to affect your consciousness. For example, eating the fruit, you're going to get some of that consciousness, or eating the animals similarly.
Yeah, if you just consider your body your vehicle, just like your car, and now your car has a wreck. Somebody hits it and tears it up pretty bad. take it into the body shop. And I use this analogy all the time because when you start detoxifying, if you took the skin off the average person, you would be amazed what you see. The average person has necrosis. They have all kinds of crap going on in their bodies, tumors, all kinds of problems, prolapsing of organs, you can just name it. So when we start that journey, this stuff, has to make itself out. And so there can be some rough times up and down. Through 50 some years of doing this with people, I've developed herbal programs to make it easy on you so you don't have the hiccups. But still, what's in sometimes has got to come out. And you have to understand that and allow that. And you're not going to feel good in those days. I've said, if you got your car in a body shop, don't go in and look at it until they're done with it, because you're not going to like it, because they're going to sand it all down and they're going to putty it all up and you're going to go, my car. Yeah, but wait, get your car fixed. So this is what your car is. Fix it. This isn't you, it's your car. Fix it up. And it just requires certain gas, certain fuel. And man hasn't learned that. He's just too busy eating mama's food. Mama cooks good. Oh, I love that spaghetti and meat sauce. Or I love that tacos or whatever, But in reality, most of this stuff is why you suffer.
So how long does it take to detox? I guess it depends, but do you have like time frames?
It depends on the person, But I'm going to say sit in for a couple of years. If you're in a wheelchair, if you got Lou Gehrig's, we can get you up on a stroller. If you're not talking, we can get you back talking in about 6 months. So it takes about 6 months to get you up out of a chair. Like you say, if you're modeled and can't talk, blah, 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 we can get you talking within that period of time, up walking and moving the stroller. But running takes a while. We had that dude that his parachute didn't open. Most of the guys know him, but his parachute didn't open. He hit the water at like 80 or something. I mean, it was unbelievable. He was totally broken up. We rebuilt him, and he's out running and flying and parachuting and everything again. I think this guy is something else. But you can rebuild. You can fix what is broken. You just have to realize a couple of things. And the first thing you have to remember is there's only 2 sides of chemistry. Only 2. So you don't have to go too far. And so when you rest on some of these principles of understanding, there's only 2 fluids in the human body, really, that flow around every cell. So if you kept it simple, your human body is just a bunch of cells and 2 fluids. Which one is hurting them? See, when you see a cell that's damaged in your body, and medical doctors go, oh, that's a cancer cell, we got it. What damaged it? And there's only 2 fluids that are constantly going around the cell, and there's only 2 sides of chemistry. Not difficult, child information, kids can learn it, easy to understand. But the medical community is fixated, and sometimes when the mind is fixated, you have to be careful about your belief systems. Because even in metaphysics, you have to be careful what you believe in, because that becomes your experience. And sometimes that's not a doorway that leads you anywhere. So you just have to, it's your experience, of course, but just, sit back and watch things and become more aware. The more conscious you become, the more you see truth. The more you use your mind, you're using a conditioned instrument to define your experience. So you're using a conditioned instrument that can only go back on its past experiences, including lifetimes. And so you can get beyond that into pure consciousness, and that's where the fun begins. How do you maintain it, and how conscious can you get? Because there's levels of consciousness. Well, that's a heck of a journey, that's all I can tell you. Fun stuff, though. I mean, this is a boring planet, face it. What is there to do on this planet? Now, the humans are not that evolved. So it can be frustrating for some of the spiritual beings, but turn it around and realize maybe you're here for them. Once you get your conscious, once you become awakened and you're conscious, you know what you do. You know how to keep it. Of course, you're going to be working on it, because the mind is always going to come in and go, you know what? I want to talk now. Wait a minute. I don't want you to talk. I want to be conscious. No. I need to talk now. So you're always battling thought and the mind, and you just have to learn how to always be able to watch your mind and watch thoughts and emotions. Get yourself away from the actual embodiment, putting on the robe, so to speak. You already got the robe on. Learn how to pull back and see who you really are outside of that.
Thank you, Dr. Morse. And you mentioned like the success that you have with some people, for example, that are in wheelchair and can rebuild their body. When you get people on the right diet and the right herbs, what is your success rate in healing those conditions?
Well, we used to have, in the medical terminology, I don't use the terminology of diseases because disease is an illusionary concept. It is a theory that has no beginning or no end. There's no cure, there's no cause. So everything is lumped as autoimmune. So you got an autoimmune problem, we got to go after your immune system. If you ask any medical doctor what the immune system is, they haven't got a friggin' clue. And it's like, yeah. Well, you have to understand when you're talking about your immune system, what system are you talking about in the human body, the blood or the lymph? There's only two. And you're not talking blood, you're talking lymphatic. So 99% of your immunity is your lymphatic system. That's your sewer system to the cells. Medical doctors believe that your sewage from the cells, which are acids, are put back into the blood. Well, if you're a chemist, and I'm a chemist, you can't compromise blood pH with systemic acids, metabolic acids. You can't do that. But they claim you do. And that's why you see just the diet of an acidic diet, you see the leaching of calcium already. Imagine if your body dumped a pound of acidic waste in it every day. You could never keep structure because your calcium is what the body can use to fight acidosis. But in that, you lose structure, connective tissue, skeletal, a depression comes in, all these things like that. So it's just learning the two sides of chemistry, the two fluids in the human body, and what is the lymphatic system. Nobody seems to know it. And so I learned that out in the woods, what the lymphatic system was. And so that changed everything for my clinic way, way back. This understanding that your lymphatic system is a sewer system of gigantic proportion, much bigger than your blood system, and they have eliminative organs. Your blood does not have eliminative organs on it. The spleen isn't an eliminative organ. It is a lymphoid organ to clean the blood, but the kidneys and the skin are lymphatic cleaners, not blood cleaners.
Yeah, thank you. And so then with that knowledge of the lymphatic system and understanding those effects, going back to my question, when people come with these conditions, what is the success rate? Do they all heal if they go through the fruit diet and the herbs?
I'd say of the cancer word, probably 95% success. Not difficult. There are some people that are just a little too involved. There was a lady up, she's making her own funeral arrangements. She's only 22 years. I'm trying to grab her. They told her she only has 3 months to live, and she's got a couple of kids. She's only 20-some years old, but she's dying not from the cancer. She's dying from their therapy. Chemotherapy is probably the most criminal activity that the medical community has. And the next is going to be the B word. All of them. It doesn't matter. All these are killing kids and stuff. And examples just the other day on another girl. They gave her 3 of the V's and her head blew up. And it bruised all over. It's unbelievable what's going on out there. So you can't put a 1.5 to 1.8 acid in your blood. Your blood is 7.5. It has to be, your blood is your electrical currents. That's how your cells get electricity. You get electricity from raw foods. You get electricity from ATP. You get electricity from a lot of ways. A lot of people don't realize that the consciousness of the food as you're breaking it down is moving through your nervous system to the related parts that those fruits were designed for. It's amazing that the food is so designed for the body parts. I mean, it can get in so deep, and we have no idea. I've seen sub-nano levels out of body, and it's unreal. I mean, you just at these levels are so finite that all you can see is light. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, they're just It's just it's like a TV, and you got all these different frequencies. There's every frequency out there. Good examples. Omniganic. She was a Venusian from Venus, and she says the only reason you guys can't see us is we're at a different frequency. But there was a Venusian society on this planet for years, probably still around. I don't know. I talked to a lot of people that were in it. But we've got beings because they're multidimensional, the shapeshifter, that kind of stuff. But man's just got to wake up. We just got so much going on and so many visitors from so many places. Not to mention that the humans can't even get their own act together. Ah.
Thank you. I wanted to, as we're wrapping up a little bit, the more physical side, I feel, even though they was connected. I wanted to ask you, you work a lot on healing, but a lot of my audience is also interested on thriving on a raw vegan diet, including building strength, building muscle, having performance. Do you feel there's a different diet for healing and for building, or are these the same?
I think chemistry is chemistry. And I think that diets are related to your awareness or lack thereof. You can't claim, there's no way you can claim cooking a piece of meat and eating it is healthy at any level. At any level. You want to eat dead animals, eat them raw. But same issue. There is nothing chemically, electrically, or anything healthy about dead animals for a frugivore, except the stress of the gut. These are acid ash foods. You got to realize a little deeper. Certain foods create, as you break down foods, they create an ash. And medical doctors think, it doesn't matter because bicarbonate from the pancreatic duct will neutralize all acids. The problem is they're wrong. You can't convert a nitrogen element into a carbon element just with bicarbonate. That's insane. So you've got acid ash foods. Acid ash foods are your protein rich. That's your meats, your beans, your grains, pasteurized dairy products. These leave an acid ash in the body, like it or not. The World Health Organization has even looked into that. So you're absorbing an acid ash into the blood. Now, your blood doesn't deal with acids. So what does your blood do? That shocks the pH of the blood. So what does your body do with that? See, and that's where you lose the calcium. That's where you see all this going on. I work with Mr. Olympias. I work with bodybuilders. You see all what happens when you pump proteins. Mother's milk does not have, humans' mother's milk is less than 1% protein, 7.5% carbon, half of that lipids, and 0.89 protein. So where's this consciousness of, and now all the baby foods are being pulled off the shelves because they found that it's creating NEC in the babies, and NEC is necrosis of the small bowel. So the baby foods, because they think higher protein is essential, it's like, if you're a biochemist, then shouldn't you be looking at the mother's milks of humans and other species to compare so you'll know the truth? Or you're just making something out of your own theories and thoughts? And that's what's going on. The lies and the theories are just flying everywhere from the medical community, and none of them are true. So humans are compromising their health really bad by not understanding simple truths. You can make claims, you can go on these high meat diets and stimulate, but it's going to get you one of these days, I guarantee you. You might think you're getting away with those things, you're not. There's no regenerative value of dead tissue. It's electrical if it's raw, but if you look at Kirlian photography and you cook it, what happens to the electrical currents? And the same thing with any food, though.
Amazing. Yeah, I did a video a few months ago comparing that Kirlian photography and where you can see the difference between
That's
different ones.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
And
cool.
do your own. I wanted to set it up here. I wanted to have a Kirlian photography set up here so we could test people too. Before you start hydrating and going on a detoxifying diet, and your journey and what your auric and what your energetic fields look like during that process. Cool stuff.
Yeah, and as I know you're into consciousness also and the effect on the matter, that makes me think of another experiment. I don't know if you've done it, but it's Dr. Emoto's rice experiment, where you pray on water or you insert the water and you look at how it affects the rice in the water, or he also took microscope photos of how it affected the crystals. Have you done something like this? Have you tried it?
Not really. I mean, I've been sitting behind a desk helping people get well for 50 years. So I am glad to be out of clinicals, and now I can teach you guys. But I've had my own school for 30 years almost, and so I've been trying to teach everyone how simple it is to learn how to heal themselves. When I lived out in the woods as a hermit for about 2.5 years, and I lived as fruitarian, I physically never felt better. And I'm an old farm guy. I never physically felt better away from the dead animals, away from all that. The fruit I was on, but you have to realize the nature of the food you're eating. If you're buying fruit out of a grove that their awareness is not good, you're going to eat. Our food sources are not higher consciously grown for the most part. Well, I was lucky enough to find a gentleman that was an out-of-body traveler that had an orange grove, and his oranges were nirvanic. You would eat them and go, oh, God, holy crap. And I could sit and eat a bushel basket at one time. It was amazing. But I was living in this little Volkswagen van, and I had to pee at night, and I had a jar, and I peed in the jar, and I set it up on this little sink thing. And then I get up in the morning and I'd see this in it. I'd see this sediment in it. See that sediment in that urine jar? That thick sediment? But that thick sediment in your urine, if you take that to a medical doctor, you have an infection and you're immediately put on some type of strong antibiotic. Wrong. This is your sewer system. If you have clear urine, you're in trouble. When I became a naturopath and then a biochemist, I started pulling blood work and urine work. And I kept seeing clear urine on these urinalyses. And I'm going, clear urine? Your urine can't be clear. That's your sewer system coming out. And sure enough, that's the problem. You lose filtration of this from your kidneys. And where does this go? Lymph nodes, around the cells. So this becomes cysts, tumors, you name it. You see it on Dr. Pimple Popper in this country that slices open external tumors, and you see this stuff coming out. This is dandruff. This is all kinds of stuff. This stuff is the stink under your skin, under your arms, between your legs, between your toes. This is sewage. This is acid sewage that has to get out. Imagine keeping this stuff every day around the cells. What's the cells going to do after a while? They're protected with cholesterol, but after a while, you're going to start breaking them down. So then medical doctors go after the cell. And it's like, what you do to one cell, guys, you do to all of them. So you can't kill cells because the cell's been damaged. You got to ask yourself, what's damaging that cell? There's only two sides of chemistry and only two systems in the body. And the lymphatic system, that's why cancers are called lymphomas. They're all lymphatic involved. So the one thing I learned in the woods is that your kidneys must filter. And when I brought that out and I started educating and making sure my patients were filtering, success was guaranteed. Guaranteed, unless you were pretty advanced. You look at someone like this. This is an advanced case of cancer. Okay? So these people like that are hard to save. But we get them, and you got to try. And it's all about acids versus alkalis. There's only two sides of chemistry. You argue all you want. And those two sides are defined by blood as alkaline and lymph deals with the acid side of chemistry. Blood can't deal with acids and alkali. And it's just stupid crap that's out there that you got to wheel in and get down and realize some common sense stuff. And that's what all this is common sense. And then, of course, learning about consciousness and everything and who you are. But that journey, my friends, is through your alone state. Only you can make this journey of awareness. And it is a very lonely journey because that alone exists. God is that consciousness that's eternal, that's omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, that is alone, totally. It's only one. So that state is an extreme state of aloneness, and it's hard to define that. It's not loneliness, it's an extreme state of self, an extreme state of the alone. And you got to be willing to go through that. A lot of souls get afraid of that state sometimes when they're down in these worlds. You got to enter that. You got to spend time with yourself. not your kids, not your husband, not your wife, not your friends, by yourself, and go through that doorway, and you will find the riches of the kingdom.
Thank you. That reminds me of one pretty transformational experience I did 5 years ago, which was a Vipassana experience by Goenka in Australia. So you go 10 days in a monastery in silence and meditate all day.
I love it. You know, you look at these Catholic monks that go out into the desert, and no one knows about these Catholic monks, but these Catholic monks go out into the desert every year for 40 days and 40 nights, and they fast and they have out of body travels. Hello, you would never hear that in Catholicism, you know, and then you start to have people opening up. I remember this lady, she was said as a Catholic, but she wanted to become a whirling dervish because she thought she could find herself a little better. So this whole journey was her becoming a whirling dervish as a Catholic. And I thought that was so cool, you know. Jalal and Rumi, the whirling dervishes. You don't have to whirl to do it. You're already it. You just have to realize it. The shifting of your awareness from your bodies to the self.
Thank
It's
you.
something you can't look at. You can't look at yourself.
I had a question more specifically on looking at your urine and the sediment, because I came across that through your work and I was not noticing sediment. So I thought, oh, maybe my kidneys aren't filtering. And then one day I ate rice and a bit of fish, like something like 3 years ago, which I don't usually do. I've been mainly vegan for 6 years and raw vegan for 3 years. And I noticed then there was a lot of sediment. And so I'm wondering, do you always need to see sediment? Or does sometimes the absence of sediment could be that you've been eating quite a clean diet for a long time and it's just not there?
Well, I would think if you're filtering, and you're going to see metabolitic waste pretty much all the time. There's times where your urine can go through some clarity and stuff, depending on your diets and stuff like that. But in reality, when you pee, you have to eliminate waste. Your urine cannot be clear. So there's got to be a little of that going on to some degree, or you'll feel it. Right kidney drains the right side of your body, and your left kidney drains the left side. The medical doctors think you have an extra kidney in there, give one away, like in dialysis. They're like, you guys are nuts. Each kidney is related to each side of the body. So when your right kidney goes down, if you're a woman, you get Rice-Brett's tumors, get your lymph nodes swelling. You could your liver's on this side. You could feel more fatty liver problems. You just start feeling problems on one side over another until the other kidney goes.
Thank you. Okay. By the way, I want to thank you because I started my raw vegan journey a bit over 3 years ago after doing an irideology reading by one of your students, Dex
Ah,
Murphy. So it's been the start for me.
Irideology is so cool. I just think it's so cool. Kids can learn it, and it's so cool because you can make a game out of it. Let me see your eyes, what I see. But what that's doing to the little ones is educating them on truth. And I just love that. I love that, we have hundreds of women that couldn't conceive. And once we fix their pituitaries and fix them up, now they have these beautiful babies. Well, you know, all you higher consciousness people that are bringing in other souls, you're going to bring in these higher beings. So realize that you're just creating a body for this higher being to use. So you can go within as the mother or father and communicate with that soul, that being that's going to use the body that you're making for them. And talk to them and see what they're here to learn. Start learning that your communication cannot just be a physical one. You can go within and communicate at a higher level, emotional level or the mental levels. And that's how you talk to people too. If you have a dispute with someone, don't go head to head. Go within, pull them to you, and have a conversation. And work it out. You can work out things on these inner worlds. That's why the masters work out your karma on these inner worlds for you, help you to work that out, so it's not everything is hitting you physically.
Awesome. And irideology is really interesting because in the world of nutrition, there's a lot of different people giving different advice, and it can be very confusing for people So it's good to have something you can notice yourself, right? So every 2 years now, I plan to do my irideology and just see by myself what's the change in my eyes and make my own opinion based on that. You've even, I guess, seen a lot of people who change eye color, right? Some people have brown eyes, and then a few years later, they have blue eyes because they were meant to be blue eyed. They just had those impurities. I think Fully Raw Christina got popular also with a video on that. Did you see a lot of people do that and change eye color?
Yeah, that's been the gig forever. Well, Irideology didn't know what that meant. And I brought out this when I understood the lymph system. Then I brought out lymphatic iridology. And so I've been teaching how do you identify your sewer system, because no one knows how to identify the lymphatic system, where your eyes are just the beautiful place for it, whether you want to know or not. But you can see all your lymph nodes. You can see the condition of your lymphatic system. If you're a blue-eyed person, you can have brown eyes from chronic lymphatic stagnation. And as we open that doorway of the kidneys, as we get the lymphatic system hydrated and moving out, you start to see blue, 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 blue. And then your true color comes back. But there's different stages. You know, your subacute stages turn the eye yellow. You'll see all kinds of colors in people's eyes. And it just depends the stage they're in, but not everybody has blue eyes. There are brown-eyed people, of course, but they get real black. Instead of getting your brown, you can't tell, but they get black, black, darker, darker, darker. And so most people that have brown eyes actually have lighter brown eyes. But it's just such a cool science, because you can basically see almost every cell in your body, the genetic stance of that cell. You can look at your gut and see if you're prolapsed. You can look at your GI tract, in other words. The endocrinology is vital, because when you get into the endocrine glands, they're controlled by the pituitary. Well, if you're short or tall, you got pituitary going on. And if you don't address that while you're addressing your healing, you're not going to go anywhere, because that can suppress your parathyroid. Well, that's your bones, your connective tissue, your happiness. And then, of course, that's your adrenal gland. Matter of fact, pituitary controls everything, basically. It's like that antenna out of the hypothalamus of the brain, which is the head honcho. So that important to, but everything, just realize everything in your body goes down because of one system. The blood only hurts cells when it can't get to a cell. The blood is always electrical, or you're a dead duck physically. So there's only one system that's causing all this problem, and it's the mucoid system. It is the lymphatic system. It is your immune system. It is the protective system. It includes your cell fluids, cytoplasm. It includes your eye fluids, synovial fluids, all the fluids in the body. And this is a cholesterol-based fluid. So it's there to protect the cells from acid damage. You got to have both in a house. You got to have a kitchen and a bathroom. Come on. You can't just have a kitchen in your house and use the bathroom in your kitchen. But that's what the medical world thinks, and it's just so stupid. But it creates this killing machine out of them that's scary, and most people are afraid. They're so brainwashed that allopathy knows what they're talking about, and they don't know anything they're talking about. Bar a good surgery can sew you back up, and bar a good ER doc can stabilize you.
Thank you. And yeah, back on the irideology, some people are born with blue eyes and then have brown eyes. So probably if they do the detox well, they will go back to having blue eyes. And I think this is fascinating.
Yeah. But you're regenerating the body while you're doing it. If you look at the eye while you're doing that, as the color's changing, these lesions or lacunas, these areas of weakness that you can see in your trabecula, your eyes, they start going away. And it's like, oh, I don't feel that anymore. I mean, you start regenerating the cells and the consciousness. So as you become more conscious, so does your cells. And, it's all about the atoms, and you just can get into so many levels. So much fun.
Thank you. I'd love to ask you a little something about the cooked food, because there is an idea, I think, that got popularized a lot by Michael Pollan. He has a series on Netflix, I think it's called Cooked, and also a book. And also I was watching a documentary on the blue zones. And so the theory of Michael Pollan is that eating cooked food is what made our brain grow and help us evolve from big apes. And the other thing I wanted to mention that is like a bit pro-cooked food is when you look at the blue zones, they eat a lot of things like beans and sweet potatoes and a lot of cooked food. So why don't you think these theories of cooked food actually being beneficial are valid?
Well, look at the human being in its state of unhealthiness. And then when people like that make these statements, I have to laugh because fructose, now with the Yale, we know it for sure, but that the brain requires fructose. And if it has to convert this inferior glucose that you're eating, all these lower forms of food, but beans, grains, things like that, these are not health foods. These are enzyme rich. You have to cook them, to break them down. But if you have to cook something to break it down so you can eat it, it's not good for you. Why would you have to? Cooking doesn't make chemistry better. It blows it apart and makes it reform. So it doesn't make chemistry better and more energetic and stuff. It creates more free radicals and more problems. The only thing I have to say, because I used to I had a clinic in Portugal for a number of years, and I represented the United States in the symposium. We had a yearly symposium, and I'd see all these macrobiologists and stuff like that, and they looked so gray, no life to them. And I'm going, you believe in cooking your freaking food. Why? Because the human is not a vegetable eater. He doesn't have multiple stomachs. He doesn't have the grinding teeth that herbivores have. So we're trying to eat herbivore food, and it's difficult because it's high cellulose. So if you steam it, boil it, or whatever, it's more palatable. Well, of course it is. Of course, there goes the electricity out of it. Balance. Okay, I get that. Some stir-fried steamed veggies with the salad. Okay. But if you want to take it higher, so I suggest this: have a morning of fruit because that's breaking the breakfast, and you break a fast always with fruit. So break your night fast, your breakfast, with a fruit meal. Have a big salad. If you want some steamed vegetables, fine. Baked sweet potato, okay. And then at night, have another fruit meal, and just try that for a month and see where it takes you. You're going to really love where it takes you.
Thank you. So in the case of the blue zone, it'd be these areas that have the most concentration, the highest concentration of centenarians. They achieved those results despite having cooked food, not thanks to like those beans or sweet potatoes, in your opinion.
See, I'll argue that this is why man is where he's at in his health, which is not very high. Man is about to eliminate himself off of the planet just by his own dietary habits and all this. Women, if you haven't noticed, women can't hardly conceive anymore. I mean, everything is going down, down, down. And so you can claim people did that, but that past is where we are now. And we're not in a healthy place now whatsoever. Now, interclinical practice, which is me and any of you guys sitting behind a desk working with actual humans and getting them regenerated, that's where you see the magic. That's where you see the proof in the pudding. If I can take a Lou Gehrig's case and every time get them up out of a chair and rebuilt, then I know what I'm doing is right.
Amazing. Thanks, Dr. Morse. In this podcast, I've had quite a lot of leaders in the raw food movement. And what is interesting is that you often add the herbs, right? So, for example, when I have, I don't know, Lauren Lockman or Doug Graham, often they work more with like, okay, raw vegan and natural hygiene, but not necessarily with the herbs. So what's the role of the herbs?
Well, I even say that's true of even the vegetable matter. Depends the genetic stance of the vegetables. But when you get into botanicals, they're original strains. They're not hybrided. So they're here for a reason. A lot of herbalists are trapped in this concept of diseases. A lot of naturopaths and homeopaths are trapped in this concept of diseases, which is ridiculous. It's a fabricated, it's a thought of the 17th and 18th century guys, cause and effect. Get into your physics. For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. It's karma, but it's also your food energy. It's also your chemistry. It's also everything else falls under that sun as well, right? And you just, again, you have to step back and look at the different species and take a look at the food sources and stuff like that. But again, I will argue that our foods are inferior as opposed to the botanicals. But when I look at botanicals, I see herbs that are plants that are created for body parts. I don't see disease at all. I mean, there's herbs for the liver, there's herbs for the heart, there's herbs for the blood, there's herbs for cells and fluids. If you look at the whole thing, you've got herbs for cells and fluids. The body is nothing but cells and fluids. And so you start to put all that together and go, oh man, that's simple. But when you're using herbs for diseases, now you're bumping with the medical community, because the medical community they're the only ones that have the right to treat diseases, because that's the fabrication of their mind, unless you get a license and the state grants you the right of a chiropractor or whatever to maybe treat certain diseases and that sort of. It's all such a trap and a game of power and control. It's cause and effect, guys. Take a look at the human. We're primates. And primates, if you want to argue eating vegetables, go ahead. I don't really care. You're going to feel a lot better anyway. Then get away from this cooked dead food. There's nothing healthy about grains and beans or high enzyme inhibitors, high phytic acid foods. You have to cook the crap out of them. Then you've got all the grains and all that. So you got dye and polysaccharides involved. Then with the beans, you got high proteins involved. So all of this turns into acid ash foods, and that's a calcium loser for you. Anytime you eat meat, beans, or grain, it's proven calcium loss for you. I don't see how you can claim you can get healthy eating it. Even a carnivore has to be careful. And look at the omnivores. National Geographic set out, and they were going to have a series called The Great Carnivores, right? And so their first one on the series was about the grizzly bear. Well, the grizzly bear is not a carnivore. And that was a lie from a National Geographic. The bears are omnivores. So why did National Geographic lie like that? All right. So once you watch the whole program, you found out that a grizzly bear's diet is 65% sage grass, 14% berries and other things, and then only about 7% protein. And the older bears got the skin for the fat for the hibernation, and the little bears got the more meat for the aminos. But it's shocking, this concept of protein, and you think these animals are high meat eaters, and they're not. When you can look at a domesticated dog, for an example. We feed our domesticated dogs high proteins, and we lose them early. They lose calcium. They get hip dysplasia. They all have kidney issues. So you can't do that. High protein is not on the menu for anybody other than a carnivore, and they're going to go to the gut tissue. They're going to go for pre-digested vegetables and all these animals. Matter of fact, does a carnivore like to eat another carnivore? No. They like to eat herbivores.
On the herbs, actually, you also mentioned it's not just about the matter and the physicality, it's also about the consciousness of the herb working through the body.
Yeah, what are they there for? What's burdock there for? Does the herbalist get into the consciousness of the foods? No. Or the herbs. And it's like, what are you here there for, Mr. Burdock? What are you here there for, Mr. Comfrey? Or dandelion or plantain or whatever it is you're using? What are you here for? And that's what I'm at. I'm at learning plant consciousness. I've been back into it. And my formulas have to speak. Those herbs have to love each other in my formulas, or they don't go in. And there's certain people buddy up together and certain people can't be together. You notice that? And the same thing with botanical formulas. And I can feel an herb when I put an herb in something, I think it's going to help it. But then I feel, no, it doesn't. The other herbs don't like, okay, it's coming out. And that's how, one of the other ways I make my formulas. That's kind of a little secret, but I'm into that awareness of the formula. Does it speak to me? Is it powerful? Or is it, well, you guys aren't getting along real well, and you don't want to take formulas like that? I'm not a nutritionist. I'm a chemist. I'm not into isolates. I'm not into removing chemistry out of plants or whatever and then giving it back to you, rearranging it, potentizing it, and giving it back to you. I think that's bullcrap. It shows a lack of understanding of causative problems. It's, again, this treatment-based consciousness that sees a symptom and it wants to treat it. That never gets you anywhere. I've had people with bags of supplements on my desk going, tell me which one, because none of these work. I said, of course they don't. It's just all cells, vitamins, minerals, all this stuff. You're going to throw your body out of homeostasis. And it probably already is, of course, by the very foods you're eating, because they're not homeostatic. What would be homeostatic to the human body? The food's designed for it. Well, now that's where I get into that. Let's tear that apart. Let's get into the magnetic energy of the foods, the consciousness of the foods. Let's get into the vertebrae, the digestive tracts, the teeth, the head. Get into all of that. And it all filters down to the Homo sapien is a frugivore species eating a little omnivorish. Most humans are eating almost carnivorish, like we said, and their health is going for it. And how come it is that I take everyone off of this food, the food that some of these health people claim is healthy, all the grain crap and all this stuff, millet, quinoa, how come I take you off of all of that, put you on a fruit diet, get you on herbs that can clean and rebuild the tissue, and how come I can save 99% of you? Proofs in the clinicals and the proofs in the evidence. We can argue, and I'm an intellectual geek sometimes. I like science. I'm a science person all the way. I like physics and I like chemistry. And you can prove everything, both physics and chemistry at this point, even consciousness. You get into quantum physics, and when they get into pure energy, what do they say about pure energy? What does quantum physics say about pure energy? It's intelligence. It's intelligence. I mean, so we've got some of that metaphysical physics bucking the spirituality right there. I think it's pretty cool,
Thank you. I love your angle also on herbs and consciousness, and anyone could experiment with themselves really, because maybe it's not so obvious that, I don't know, basil or whatever herb or coriander would have like a consciousness, but obviously on the other end of the spectrum you have things like plant medicine, right? If you drink a cup of ayahuasca, you can make sure this has a consciousness and it's going to alter yours. And then you have things in between, such as, like, for example, if I drink an old pu'er tea in a ceremony, I can feel that's affecting my consciousness also in more subtle ways, or blue lotus, for example.
Well,
so yeah, that's
I did LSD and window pane mushrooms way back in my early 20s. But in reality, I learned that I can have that awareness without taking anything, because it's me that I'm talking about in the first place. What am I trying to do with giving myself a buzz? And I am the buzz. So it's like, when you get too pulled apart, you sometimes can take something, pull yourself kind of together and relax and stuff, but you can do the same thing by just sitting down and stop thinking. Just be. Just allow that current to be, just be the current. Be the prana, be the life force, whatever you want to call it. But realize that the infinite, to experience the infinite, if you want to know what the infinite is like, and you want to experience the infinite, you can only do it if you become it. You can't experience the infinite. You can't experience God if you can't become it. The mind is no way can wrap around the infinite. It's finite. So you can't mentally conceive the infinite. And the infinite can't see itself. So that tells you that everything is in the present moment. And you see that when you enter into these higher worlds of pure consciousness. There's no you, me, there's no it over there. There's no more duality. It just is. And then you realize why there is creation. But it's powerful. But it, again, is an extreme long state of experience.
Thank
And
you.
you're the only rocker that can rock that rock.
And actually, I find that when you're on a fruit-based diet, life is already a little bit trippy, let's say. You're more connected. You already have this kind of experience on maybe a microdose on a daily level.
Well, go back again. If we got to bring it down to a physical science, Yale just found that the body converts glucose to fructose. Why convert an inferior simple sugar, which blows me away, because a friend of mine is an A&P professor of 25 years, and we're always talking about this stuff, and I'm going, how can the body convert an inferior simple sugar like glucose that needs insulin? And in A&P, in physiology, of course, she teaches that the brain doesn't uptake insulin. I said, do you ever wonder why? I said, because the brain doesn't use glucose. It uses fructose. So neurons need fruit, and that's why you feel that upliftment when you're having it. That's why nerves can rebuild themselves. Neuropathies, all of this stuff start going away when you start enhancing the nerve function. And, of course, the adrenals and neurotransmitters, and you get into that side of it, too. So it's just learning a little bit about the body, how simple it is, how fun it is to play it and rebuild it because you feel so good. And there's only one individual that benefits from that, and that's you. Doesn't matter. Practice, experiment it. Try a month of just all raw foods with vegetable lunch with that, fruit in the morning, fruit, and then try another month, leave the vegetables off and see where it gets you. Now, keep in mind, if you got congestion in your sinuses, it's going to want to come out. If you got congestion in your lungs, you're going to be sucking it out. And you can see mucus in your stools, mucus in your urine. You're going to see the body eliminating that which has been holding. You might have some symptoms, but all in all, fun journey.
Thank you. Talking about fun journeys, you've mentioned quite a bit your experience with astral traveling and out-of-body experiences. I'd love to ask you, why would one want to have more of these? And do you have any strategies, techniques to get into that?
I remember early on, I was reading some of the Paul Twitchell's work, and he was saying that, men don't dream in color. And I'm going, I think I do dream in color. I'm a little farm boy. I mean, we work. My family is a workaholic. So all we did was work. And so I got to thinking, you know what? Maybe we don't. Well, that night I was working with my neck master. Oh, he took me to, it was in the astral world as your color world, let me tell you. I learned about the 1,000-petal lotus. And then when I were able to take my students to the 1,000-petal lotus, that's the top of the astral world. You'll see more colors than you can even comprehend. But the power of these colors. But cities are made from jewels. Trees are emanating jewel colors. It's like they don't look like here. They look like jewels growing out of the ground. I mean, it's like, and the cities are just jeweled in so many ways. I can't even begin to tell you. And it's just like, we were hovering. He was taking me over this landscape, and all I was like, wham, 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 wham. And from then on, color. So, you
Okay,
can.
sounds exciting. So I'm sold on the why. Now, how about the how?
At night, lay down on the bed. Just lay down. You don't have to be in any particular position, but you want to be in a position that you can totally relax. And I mean totally. And then you want to picture yourself up on the ceiling looking down at yourself. Just lay there and keep relaxing, but at the same time, look just like you're having an imagination. Have your imagination like you're up at the top of the ceiling looking down. Or if you like the beach, if you like the woods, just keep totally relaxed and put yourself there. Feel yourself walking down the beach. Smell the fresh sea air. Listen to the seagulls. Look at the sand. And pretty soon you'll pop out and be there. The more you can let go of your physical structure, then you'll be able to move yourself anywhere you really want to go. And if you got spiritual guides, they'll come and help you. And then, all that, you'll know where to go, that sort of thing. But there's all
Exciting.
kinds
Thank
of
you.
techniques. Now, you can sit here and expand. You can sit right where you're at and look anywhere you want. I mean, that's the beauty of consciousness. And you can talk. I'm sitting here in a major buzz talking to you. I'm just in the now. But I see beings that are visiting us, listening to us right now. I see a lot of things go around. And you just have to, you always are watch. You're like the watcher at the threshold. You're the watcher. You're the observer as your bodies are experiencing. Then you can control things better. But when you're a lack of that, then your mind controls your thoughts, control you, and not every thought is yours. Don't be, you have, and I was going to bring this up when you were talking earlier. One thing that one has to be careful about is opening themselves up psychically. Right now, you have a lot of beings willing to sit in on you. And you might think I'm crazy, but you've got a lot going on. And every time I mention one, people freak out. But we are invaded with a couple of species that can sit on you and you don't even know it. So you really got to be really more aware now of yourself and that which is within you.
Thank you. And I think that's very relevant in the context, especially as we mentioned plant medicines. I think that can be a risk with it. So I like that you bring that too. And as we're approaching towards more the end of our podcast, Dr. Morse, I'd like to orient the remaining of our conversation towards purpose and leaving a legacy. Because many of us light bearers, we're here on Earth also for a purpose. It's amazing that we are consciousness and we can explore traveling and being around, but right now we're also incarnated in a body on that planet Earth. And many of us, we came here to create what we call the new Earth, an Earth that's more in harmony with each other, with nature, with animals, with consciousness itself. And as part of it, I think it's really important that, yes, we have consciousness experiences, but also that we be here and do what we came here to do in the first place. I'll have a little parenthesis on this. For me, part of that job in a way and work is through a podcast like this. And I'm actually coaching people on starting a podcast. So if people are interested, if they feel like it's part of their purpose on earth to share those amazing messages, and you want a bit of support on starting your podcast, YouTube channel, you can check in the description and reach out to me, and I'd be happy to start a conversation on this. And actually, on the
You just said it yourself. And the very name that you go by, you're the light givers. I mean, you're here to expose truth so that each individual can either grab it for themselves or not. You can't make people do things. But if you're an individual and you like the message, it can take you into worlds and worlds beyond. But some people are not ready for that message. I have people that come in to me clinically for, let's say, a gallbladder problem or a liver, whatever. And then they may go on the fruit for a month or something, feel a little better, and then they don't come back anymore. A few years later, they come back and go, oh, yeah, I was trying to save my wife. They took it out. So sometimes it takes, and it might not even be in this lifetime again. Just remember that when you part truth to consciousness, it will remember it. It will, even in another lifetime. I talk to so many beings. I know they're not going to take it on this lifetime, but I know next lifetime or so they will. So it's like the Johnny Appleseed consciousness. You're helping to elevate the awareness of all these beings that don't know where they're at either. So you guys are doing really great work. And I just, each and every one of you, once you get it, then what do you do with it? You give it, pass it on. You start working. I have my own school, and I've been teaching people for years how simple it is to help your mother, your brother, if they'll listen to you, your family or your friends. And this is how people get their own practices going. You don't have to have a doctorate degree to understand how you can cure everything. You don't have to spend years like that. It's simple, simple, simple. And once you learn it, man, you can help everybody get well. So at the same time, we have a student in Dubai, and there was a young girl. I don't know if she was Miss Dubai yet or whatever, but she was very young, very beautiful girl, head to toe psoriasis. At the same time, I've got a patient from the Philippines. She is young, head to toe psoriasis. And we put both of them up on, I put them up on YouTube to show you both of them. Both of them. The one that I had, is now Miss Philippines. She has nothing. She's as clean, as beautiful as you ever see, Miss Philippines. And I think that lady in Dubai, she was young. I think she was running for something. But anyway, just another clean this beautiful soul up. And, these kids have been suffering for years with skin problems and stuff. So many kids are. What system does the skin belong to? Your sewer system, your lymphatic system. And once you learn these things, it's simple, it's fun, and now you're empowered. When you know you're empowered, and no one can take you off of that because you know the truth. And that's where I think that man needs to go.
Love this.
What is the truth?
And one of the other amazing things with having a podcast is that I can spend an hour and a half with amazing people like Dr. Morse.
That's fun. You're a great guy, and it's like, that's the beauty of what you're doing. I just love it. I think that being able to get out there and for yourself, putting this together for yourself, all your guests and listening and learning for yourself, because this is your journey. And your journey is bumping with all of our journeys, which is the fun thing. And once we realize we're all from the same source, hey, cool, man.
Yeah, talking about legacy and going back to what you've been creating. So you have Morses.tv, 700 plus episodes. You've trained so many people just living in Bali. I know many of your students. And so, yeah, how do you have a message to share with people how to just do what you love and do what you came here to do and live that legacy?
You just do it. Yeah. Well, I've lived in RVs, travel trailers, like I've lived in my own practice. I've had to work everywhere else. I became a builder, built custom homes for people, tried to make it, trying to have a clinic and struggle. When you're talking about raw foods 55, 60 years ago, that's tough. And when you're telling someone they got to go on a fruit diet back in the 60s and 70s, that's rough. Because, that awareness, I've always said you can't go back. It's just, you can't breathe. It's just the development of awareness from, say, the 50s and 60s is tremendous. And back in the 60s, on TV, the musicians couldn't shake their body. You can't shake your body. I remember Ed Sullivan telling Elvis Presley, don't you shake your booty. Well, he shook his booty anyway, and then you got into the rock and roll time, just exploded, and that blew the consciousness. People understand also there's the music side of God, but there's also how we break up thought forms. You use music to break up thought forms. There's so much you can use and play with to set or break up thought forms, and you just have to know how to play with that sort of thing. But look at the music. I'm a musician, and I have, I work with a lot of musicians from Def Leppard to Bryan Adams, Shania Twain. I don't see her much anymore, but we've been over to France with her house and Switzerland and stuff. And so these rock and rollers, they're the creative people. And then we have the artists. So the creative arts is an incredible way to express yourself. If you're an artist, bring out what you see on the inner. I come from an art community in Indiana, and it's just still art. And I used to talk to these famous artists and say, why are you painting still art? Go within and paint the light. Paint the beauty of what you see. And when you see that art, oh, whoa, it just lifts you up. Just to look at someone bringing the light out in their art lifts you up, brings a light to you. It's just all cool stuff.
I love that. And you've definitely been in your art too and in your craft sharing a lot. I'd love for you to share a little bit of the grand vision of what you're creating with the trainings and the courses.
Oh,
Is there something else coming up?
yeah. I've got 3 books currently. They're V-books, so they're video books. They're going to be converted into regular books, but I want the video books so you'll be able to see us talking to you. And I'm doing them, and I invited my physiology friend to do them with me because she's been in physiology for 25 years. And so when she learned about the lymphatic system, she quit being a professor and came to work for me because that taught, it woke her up. She said, oh my God, I understand it now. But she wanted to go back to teaching, and she did, but our universities won't allow her to teach what she knows as truth. So much that these medical doctors go to school, they don't get to see the truth of it all anymore. So some of this is controlled propaganda. So I feel sorry for some of the medical doctors. It's like some of the V words. Dr. Tenpenny, a medical doctor, went into all these CDC centers and found out that the pharmaceuticals were lying to the medical doctors about the side effects of these things. So it's just important to wake up, because if you're not, you will be a victim. You'll be like a leaf flying in the wind or floating in the wind, and anybody will use you, and some people can really hurt.
Thank you. I'd love to share
And you don't want to allow.
I'd love to share an idea I have for you, actually, which is nowadays, to ask for advice on nutrition or topics like this, I sometimes go on ChatGPT and ask, consume all the content from Dr. Morse, and now imagine you're Dr. Morse and you're having a conversation where you're coaching me. I think this is still a little bit limited with ChatGPT because I don't think it reads your video. What do you think of creating an AI version of you that listens to all your videos and then can give personalized advice to?
Crazy. But that would be cool to see how that would turn out. See how AI, because it's interesting. If you could get a certain pattern set within AI of truth, I don't know how this, because it's programmable like anything else, but it does feed and learn on itself. So it's like this climax in the weather. People are going nuts over it and all this. But there was a scientist that talked to AI, and he said, "What about global warming?" And the AI said, "Yep, we have so many degrees the planet has done." Blah 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 blah. So then this scientist had 3 studies that have been done on this, and he fed each of these studies to this AI, and it came back saying, "No, you're right. The planet has not warmed more than a fraction of this so much," and blah 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 blah. It's the shifting of this, and so interesting. It's again a programmable thing, but can it really learn? I knew, of course, I'm Air Force, but we knew that computers, even Social Security was creating computers that learned on itself years ago. So scary stuff because you think of the futuristic, you learn and stuff, but cool as all get out.
Thank you so much, Dr. Morse. And I have to say, even though I asked ChatGPT to pretend it's you, it's much nicer to speak with you in direct.
I love you, man. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and your guests, and just hope everybody can grab the health for themselves. Learn as much as you can before you take a pharmaceutical, before you jump on a surgery, rethink chemotherapy if you're dealing with tumors and stuff. Relook at some of our videos, like it's Morris's .tv. We've got a new botanical company coming. We're waiting for our formulas coming in. I've created a whole new line of handcrafted with a more conscious view. So it's exciting. We're waiting on those to come out, and we're under handcrafted botanical formulas. So handcrafted botanical formulas. There I'm teaching you about the systems in the body. You'll come across that, and I teach you what you need to work with these systems and how they work together, because basically there's only 3 systems of the human body, but you can break it down into more subsystems and stuff. But how do you work on your body? How do you use herbs for? What you said it earlier, what's going on here? So when you're not treating a symptom, you're asking yourself real causative factors. You're into the 2 sides of chemistry. You're into what's the body made of anyway. You're into getting into the foundation of how everything is created. And that foundation, when you build on it, will give you truth. Man has just went all kinds of ways. I don't know. Medical community is just so brainwashed and controlled that it can't learn new stuff. It just takes a spiritual medical doctor to take a look outside of himself. Oh, let me look over there. Because we've been curing people up in my town of what they call cancer for years. Matter of fact, we made the front page of a newspaper 30 years ago. And boy, did hell break loose then. And they always tried to arrest me anyway. But boy, when the newspaper put that on the front page, because you can't treat cancer. Cancer is a medical condition that's uncurable. But if you have a tumor, you have cells that are breaking down, we can get that out of you and fix that. But as a disease, no one can cure a disease because it doesn't exist.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Morse. And we'll definitely put the links in the description for people to check it out. I love you.
Love you
And
too.
I can say from all our viewers, we love you. We love all the amazing work that you're doing. So grateful.
It's fun with you guys are fun. You guys are great. And I love all you guys. You're just so spiritual, and it's fun to work around spiritual people. Once you work in the pits for a while, it's fun to be around loving spiritual people like you guys. I'm telling you, I've been out in the pits Grew up here alone. I mean, you go back like in the 70s and 80s, you don't talk raw. You don't talk consciousness. Not where I come from. Love you,
Amazing.
man.
Love you too. And if you want to come and enjoy some amazing durians and other fruits in Bali, let me know. I'll be a pleasure to
Cool.
to meet in person.
That would be
Any
great.
any last thing you want to share before we stop
Love
the
you
record?
all. Namaste. And take time for yourself. Take time to grow and be happy, because if you're depressed or you have anxieties, there is a physical reason that you can fix for that, and you can get yourself back happy again. And you want to be happy. If your body's hurting, fix it, and we'll help you. There's all of us. There's my buddy here. There's everybody out here that's learned to fix you. So there's no reason people should ever go without help. We've got people all around the world, like you said, and thousands of students that have passed our schools. They can help anybody get well. So love you all for that, and I'll see you in the inner.